Just want to say, first of all, good evening, everyone. Special thank you to Telly Walls. Without this, none of this would be possible. And I guess my story, imagine in your mid-20s, it's supposed to be the prime of your life. The world is your oyster and there's nothing that you can't do. Sounds like a great life and attitude to have, doesn't it? In fact, it's a fairly typical attitude of an American male, and probably women also. I still haven't figured out how women think. The only problem is my attitude and reality went for a rude awakening. It's now February 29, 2008. I'm laying in my bed sick, and I recall this date so vividly because it's Leap Day. We only have those once every 4 years. For me, this will be a day I will never forget, as it set off a chain of events that would forever change my life, only I didn't know it yet. As I'm laying in bed sick, already dreading the fact that I might need to go to the hospital, as the food caused my blood sugar to spike up as I'm type 1 diabetic. As I'm lying in bed, I first noticed something is terribly wrong with my left foot and leg. I can't move my toes, I can't bend them, flex them, wiggle them, or move them at all, no matter how hard I tried. Once I got over being sick, I made what ended up being the first of many appointments to see a doctor. When I saw the first doctor, he did his routine checkup, asked all my routine questions, inquired about my family history of neurological illnesses, which led us both to thinking my problems were caused by neurofibromatosis, a rare neurological condition that is genetic, which causes tumors to grow throughout my entire body, both above and underneath my skin. Knowing about my family history, we felt I likely had one of these tumors growing somewhere in my body, causing all my issues, but it turned out this was not the case. After several MRIs, several tests, several doctors, and several years, nobody could figure out what was wrong with me, but I was consistently getting worse and worse. It's now Monday, March 21st, 2011, and I'm starting to get excited. In just 3 days, I'm going to see another specialist who thinks he solved the puzzle that's plagued me for the last 4+ years. I'm still hard at work when I feel my phone vibrate. I check my phone and see it's my best friend's wife. I pick up the phone to see what's going on, and fighting through the tears, she tells me my best friend just died from a heart attack at the age of 28. It's now Thursday, March 24th, 2011, and as much as I'm in shock, I need to go back to my neurologist to get the long-awaited results of the exams, even if I wasn't in the right frame of mind to hear them. I get to the doctor, he sits me down and informs me that all his examinations and MRIs indicate that I have what is a disease called multiple sclerosis. I had absolutely no idea what MS was, nor did I care at the present moment. Not that there was a good time to get this diagnosis, but this was certainly not what I wanted to hear at the present time. Here I and our mutual friends are comforting our friend on the loss of a husband, but I needed some comfort as well, even if what I was going through was nothing in comparison. My doctor further tells me the type of MS I have is known as primary progressive MS, which is hallmarked by the fact that you have a steady decline in your overall health, with there being no FDA-approved medications available for me to take for this type of MS. My doctor did, however, put me on the medication for one of the other types of MS in hopes it would slow the progression of this disease down, even if there was no way of knowing for sure if it was actually helping or not. Given everything that was happening all around me, I was completely numb to hearing my diagnosis, as I was still in complete shock of my best friend's passing. Less than 24 hours ago, I watched them bury him 6 feet under. I wasn't able to appreciate the gravity of the situation I was currently in. My diet and lifestyle post-diagnosis was pretty much the same as it was pre-diagnosis. My diet was basically the standard American diet, or SAD for short. SAD is exactly what my diet was. A typical day of food for me consisted of a breakfast with chocolate milk, waffles covered in butter and syrup. A typical lunch was a bologna sandwich with 1 or 2 candy bars to accompany it on the days I had to go to work, and pizza when I didn't go to work. Not the best decision considering I'm type 1 diabetic. A typical dinner was mac and cheese or pasta covered with butter and ketchup, along with some kind of meat cooked in butter or pork chops breaded with shake and bake. To top it all off, desserts with sugar-free cookies or entire bags of potato chips. My local pizzeria and Chinese restaurant were two of my best friends as well, as I would order takeout from them on an average of once a week. This definitely was not a healthy lifestyle to live, especially for someone who was living with 3 chronic illnesses, one of which is progressive. I can't say for sure if the lifestyle I was living at the present moment aided in the decline my body would eventually take, but one thing I can say for certain is that it definitely did not help. What happened to my body over the next few years was sad as well. For a while I was doing fine. I was still walking independently. My limp and weakness was getting greater, but it didn't have much of an impact on my life. That all changed one cold winter's day. I recall I was outside in the freezing cold waiting for the bus to arrive to take me home from work. As the bus pulled up to the stop and I tried to board it, I encountered my first serious problem. I wasn't able to lift my leg to get up on the bus. It felt heavy and extremely tight. To make matters worse, I struggled to move at all. I had to ask the person behind me to help me get to the benches at the bus stop. Thankfully, the stop had a bench for me to sit at as I waited for my mother to pick her up as I called her to tell what happened. Once I got home, I started doing my own research in MS to see if there was anything else I could do to fight back against disease. I was tired of tightness, cramping, and overall weakness in my leg that I had to deal with 24/7. From doing random searches on Google and YouTube, I found one woman who had reversed the damage MS had done to her body largely from diet. She'd gone from a wheelchair to walking based largely on the food she put into her body. Upon seeing her story, I was very skeptical. In fact, skeptical was an understatement. Still, one person claimed to do it. I figured there's no harm in asking my doctor about it. When I saw my doctor, I asked if he ever heard of a woman named Terry Wahls and what he thought of her diet and what she accomplished. My doctor told me there's no scientific proof it works, and she is only one single case. He also told me it's possible she never had MS to begin with, and don't get your hopes up, but I should try to eat healthier anyway. Hearing this, take a guess what I did. That's right, I kept going on my sad diet. No proof it works, and making a radical change to my diet based on the success of a single person? No thank you. The odds were not in my favor. Plus, if everything I was dealing with, food had become one of my true comforts and joys. I had no intention of giving up my pizza, bagels, waffles, takeout, fast food. Well, you get the point. All those unhealthy, fatty, and greasy, artery-clogging foods I've come to love over my lifetime. Over the next few months, I experienced more and more mobility issues coming at the end of my workday. Where I used to walk across the street to the bus stop without a problem now became a problem. I used to comfortably walk across the street using a hurricane, but now I didn't feel comfortable using a hurricane. I graduated to a 4-prong cane. Soon after I started using my 4-prong cane, I realized I still wasn't feeling comfortable at the end of the day. Sure, I was still safely able to make it across by myself, but comfort was a feeling that had become a stranger to me. It got so bad I needed my manager's assistance to cross the street. Here I am, a grown man in his mid-30s, walking across the street holding the arm of another man in his mid-40s. On my days off, when I would go out to eat with family, I didn't feel steady walking 5 feet without holding on to someone's arm for aided support. I knew something had to change. The life I was living, if you could call it that, was going downhill quickly. I now had to purchase a walker as my 4-prong cane didn't give me the stability it once did. This was probably my lowest point, being in my mid-30s and needing a walker to feel safe to get around. Although I displayed a happy, positive exterior, I felt like shit and cheated. I'm 35 years old, sitting alone in my home, practically in tears, knowing it doesn't get any better than this. In fact, it only gets worse. What kind of quality of life is this? I've always been a positive person and tried to see the best in things, but now I was coming up empty. I decided that my doctor could be wrong, so I started the Wahls protocol. Terry Wahls went from wheelchair-bound to doing an 18-mile bike marathon, in large part from changing her diet. I found my inspiration and felt I too could do the impossible. It was September of 2016 that I decided if she could do it, so can I, and I started changing my diet. I didn't care that my doctor told me it's a different type of MS. We both had MS and were told it's progressive, so she could reverse it, so could I. I decided I was going to use Terry Wahls as my inspiration and model my diet after hers as best as I possibly could. I didn't care if my doctor told me there's no scientific proof it works, and she is one single isolated case. I was one single isolated person. If she had success, it is possible I would too. I didn't care if I came from a family who never ate healthy and dared I would stick to this diet. I reached that critical point in my life where I needed to make some serious changes where I feared I would be wheelchair bound in a not so distant future. To be honest, part of the reason being wheelchair bound terrified me is the horrific fact that I would lose my independence and would need to rely on others for the rest of my life to get by. Truth be told, that was only part of it. As a kid, I remember going out to family, and from time to time, we would see a person in a wheelchair. My family always had the same reaction in common to that. They would comment they would rather be dead than in a wheelchair. If I lose my ability to walk, I wouldn't want to live anymore. Granted, no one knew years later I would get diagnosed with a life-debilitating disease that could very well leave me wheelchair-bound one day. But the fact is, this is now a very distinct possibility for me. Watching my body decline to the point it has, and knowing how my family really feels about being confined to a wheelchair, I knew the time for change was now. I rewatched the videos on YouTube of Terry Wahls. I watched the TED Talks and read her books. From doing more and more research, I found a Facebook group dedicated to her way of life, with hundreds of people giving testimonials, praising her way of life, and giving accounts of their improved mobility. My doctor said one single person. Well, I just found hundreds of one single persons who benefited from her way of life. I just needed to wait for my book to arrive to embark on my new way of life. My book finally arrives, and I dive right into it, learning what foods to eat and what not to eat like the plague. I knew I needed to eat healthy anyway, I just never knew to what extent. What I love about her diet regimen is, unlike most of the other diets for treating MS out there, I would still be able to eat meat. I just needed to graduate from buying the cheapest meat I could find, the high-quality grass-fed and organic meats. I'll be lying if I said my first month of my new lifestyle was easy and my improvement was earth-shattering. The truth is, it was incredibly difficult. I had tons of cravings for my favorite junk foods. I wanted to call my local pizzeria and order an entire pie and a sausage calzone just for myself. I wanted to be satisfied that I now had my dinner for the next 2 to 3 days. I also knew doing that wouldn't help me in any way, and I had to push through the cravings and remind myself why I was doing this in the first place. After the first month of my lifestyle change, to my surprise, I actually noticed a difference. I was more upright in my walking, I was walking with more confidence, and overall I just felt better. I still needed my walker or 4-prong cane to get around, but it's only been 1 month. The fact that I noticed a difference at all this quickly was tremendous, and just a confidence boost I needed to keep going and be assured I was on the right path. As time went on, I found it easier and easier to stick to this new way of life. My cravings became less intense, and I was having them less and less. I had a newfound source of energy as well. Prior to switching to my diet, I would attempt to exercise every day by riding my stationary bike. The problem was after working all day, then having to come home, make dinner, clean the dishes, and do all those wonderful household chores we do as adults, I was completely exhausted and would literally have to force myself to do 10 minutes on my bike. Now that I'm on the Wahls Protocol diet, I have enough energy to work a full day, do all those wonderful household chores, and still have the energy to ride my stationary bike for at least 30 minutes a day, sometimes even have the energy to go for an hour. Just as before I saw and documented improvements in my mobility and energy levels, I was feeling better, looking better, moving better, and I was even seeing better. I actually went from needing to wear my glasses all the time to only needing them for long distances, much to my amazement. Everything about my life was definitely improving and looking up. I've been lucky in the sense that I've always been a positive person, and a positive mindset is something you definitely want to have in life, but especially when dealing with chronic illness such as MS. As my energy levels went up, my walking, balancing, gait all improved as well. I got to the point where I hardly even use my cane at all anymore. I walk with it as holding it in my hand gives me a sense of security, but thanks to Terry Wahls and her protocol, I'm extremely independent and no longer hindered by declining mobility. Healing is possible, and although I'm dealing with a recent setback triggered by a stress and a complete change in my everyday life, it's okay because I know, just as in life, healing is like a roller coaster. You have your ups and downs. Your ups are likely to be slow and steady, and your downs can come quickly, unexpectedly, and be very scary. But at the end of it, you will rise again, and you need to enjoy the ride. I guess after all this, what I'm trying to say is a proper nutrition, exercise, a positive mindset, unwavering determination, and the right people in your corner, you too can achieve the impossible and accomplish all your dreams. When someone tells you your dream is impossible, laugh in their face and use it to fuel you. Remind them that Mark App, the Wright brothers, Roger Bannister, Stephen King, Albert Einstein, Richard Branson, and of course Terry Walls all dare to dream and achieve the impossible. Always remember, when you break down the word impossible, it even tells you impossible. Dream it, believe it, achieve it.